Hey everyone, welcome to the first Yuka live event. We're super excited to have Sarah, the founder of Crafted here. I actually worked with Sarah, a while back doing some UGC to retail projects and wanted to bring her on because of the headaches and how difficult it was to prepare a project like that. I don't know if anyone's ever just tried to make 100 influencers go to one place in the United States and get them to purchase within a limited amount of time, but it's the worst experience ever, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone unless you're working with Sarah, who's guiding you through the process. So super excited to have her on here, and I'll let her give a quick introduction on who she is and Crafted.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sohan, for the intro. I'm a big fan of you and Bendo and Yuka. So super excited and grateful to be here. As you mentioned, I'm Sarah. I'm one of two co-founders of Crafted. And what we do is we help brands drive retail velocity through hyper-local, authentic, scalable influencer content, or UGC, whatever you want to call it. How we got into this space actually started with kind of my journey as a foodie and a food content creator in the pandemic. And, we had this idea to create kind of a social cooking experience and brought that to life with actually live streaming. And we had this idea to build Twitch for cooking, and worked on that for over a year and realized, we need to go all in on short form video content. And rather than dragging people off of TikTok and Instagram to join our live cooking streams, let's help brands create content, because we already have the influencers who are super excited to reach broader audiences and support these brands. So we pivoted to kind of short form, matching creators with brands, and now we're really focused on retail. We figured out a way to scale content in certain regions and in certain stores for brands who are just launching at a new retailer.
Interesting. So how do you launch a retail campaign? What is Crafted doing differently than any of these other creator marketplaces?
Yes. So I think just to talk about the landscape first will help folks understand. So there are a million influencer platforms out there, right? And these are databases that have really advanced tooling for searching and filtering the right creators, and that's wonderful. The problem of finding influencers and reaching out to them has been solved, but what hasn't been solved yet is the problem of content. Because even if you have 100 amazing creators, reaching out to them, negotiating rates with them, answering questions about the brief, making sure that they're in the right location, right? Figuring out usage rights is a huge headache. We have cracked that nut because of, or cracked that code or whatever, because of how we go about briefing and managing. So when we start with just vetted creators, so we require our creators to apply to Crafted. We make sure their content is solid. They don't have weird, fake bots in their comments, things like that. And then they sign up for Crafted. They connect their socials, and we set rates for them based on the projected viewership. So this is something we haven't really seen before yet in the industry, and it helps scale because influencer marketers or brands or whatever aren't having to do that outreach and negotiation back and forth. And it also saves our clients money because the CPM that we set is less than a third of what many creators are quoting these days, kind of on their own. And you're able to track your spend and project your reach with your spend through our platform as well. So that's kind of vetted creators, negotiation, rate setting, and then they apply to campaigns. So I love this feature because a lot of the ways that agencies will work with brands is they'll kind of go to their network and say, hey, I need creators that are moms of children, under 10 years old in these regions. And they'll get a large list together, send it to the client, and the client will say, cool, I love these people. Then the agency has to go back, actually get in front of that person. And it's just a back and forth, and that creator may not be interested. So with our platform, creators are already vetted, already priced, and they have to opt in. So they write their video idea as their proposal. All our clients have to do is approve them. once the creators are approved, they go to the store, they make the content, and then the process moves forward from there.
Wow. So that's actually the opt-in point, and the application process is super interesting because, what I found is like Sarah was saying, a lot of these creators aren't engaged, right? So that leads to a lot of agencies and brands missing deadlines on projects, slower response times. But the fact that creators can submit a content idea they're excited about and then start the process off on a great foot, that's super amazing. And then just for all of you who aren't familiar with CPM, CPM is cost per milli, which just means how much it costs to generate 1,000 impressions. So that's a standard KPI, or key performance metric, for advertising. And with influencer marketing and creators, we're starting to look at the quality of these metrics and reaches in comparison to paid media. So super interesting that you're also able to see that impact. It leads to other analyses like earned media value and ROI of your influencer campaigns down the line. So love that you have that performance side baked in. I want to drill just a little bit more into the crafted workflow. So when these creators apply with their proposals, what does that look like? Like, what is the structure? What makes a good proposal versus a bad proposal?
Yeah. Such a great question, because these proposals are not all created equal. So a good proposal is a creator that has thoroughly read the brief up front. And we present all the briefs like in the dashboard where creators log in and they're browsing through the active campaigns we have. So if they're thoroughly reading it and they come up with a video idea that kind of speaks to that, doesn't even need to be long, like 2 sentences. Hey, my video idea is like, my concept is this, and it aligns with the brief. We have some creators that are just like, a few words. That could be okay too, but not ideal. And then I think another pitfall with creative proposals is just kind of going off like outside of the brief. So those are the strengths and weaknesses. But I know this, the topic of this conversation is briefing and how to do that right. So, when clients ask me, hey, like how do we make sure that the quality of this content is good? What is that feedback loop? I always say it starts with a strong brief. That is like the very first touch point where a creator is experiencing like the instructions and the vision of the campaign. And that really will kind of set the stage for how the rest of the campaign and the content will go. So
yeah, totally agree. And I could definitely see creators not wanting to submit a proposal for a 15-page brief, right? So, I'd love to understand, first of all, what is a creative brief? What are some of the elements of a creative brief? And, maybe walk through some of those so our viewers can understand how they can put together a great creative brief for TikTok affiliates.
I'll walk through. So, we've been doing this a while. We've done a lot of trial and error with briefing. We've seen a ton of briefs. And we have come up with what we believe is the perfect brief template. And I have it in front of me, so I'll kind of like read through it. But it starts with the brand background. Nothing crazy. Maybe a little bit about the founder story if that's important, especially if it's an emerging brand. But like a short paragraph about how the brand came to be is great. The campaign objective. Is it to drive awareness? Is it to drive to a certain store? Is it just to create ad creative? Let the creators know what is the point of this. Then it's the product. So a link to the product or a link to the PDP is really important. If this is not available, we ask for product images because a lot of the times the creator has to go to the store and they have to like recognize it on the shelf. And then we ask for talking points and a price because we will be reimbursing them as well when they buy the product. Then the target audience, and this can be like demographics as well as psychographics. So a lot of times our clients will just say, women aged, 21 to 31 or whatever, 35. But psychographics, like, okay, someone who is seeking a healthy alternative to their electrolyte mix is okay too. And then brand positioning. So this is important. And this is something where I think clients get tripped up a little bit. Like, well, how is brand positioning different than the brand background? Brand positioning is like, where is your brand in the landscape of a creator's kind of like consideration set? So I'm going to read. I have a good example in front of me. Okay, this brand is a bold, sinfully wholesome snack choice that combines indulgence with natural quality ingredients, perfect for the adventurous snacker. This brand is bursting with natural umami flavor, and this snack is for anyone who wants to keep life flavorful, balanced, and a bit on the daring side. So, like, how you compare to other products? What is the customer thinking when they're considering this? Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
That makes sense. I think starting from like, first of all, who are we trying to talk to? What is the brand about? What is the product about? Giving some color, to the relationship you're beginning to form with that creator. Super interesting. And, those PDPs, those product display pages, a place where you can start to learn or do more research, providing them with some like resources. That's super great. But we'll let you continue on, Sarah.
yes. Absolutely. So the next thing is just like kind of brass tacks video specs. How long should the video be? Should it have captions, music? What's the call to action? Who should they tag in the caption? Any caption instructions, things like that. And then we have do's and don'ts. So I like to advise our clients to put things like, hey, we want to see your face, in the video in the do section. So things where you really want to encourage the creators to hit that point or hit that angle should be in the do section. And then the don't section, I always like to advise them that they say something like, hey, like, don't make any health claims, don't read this brief verbatim. Some of our brands are a little bit more scripted, and that's okay. But others are like, hey, we want you to be creative and talk about how this fits into your lifestyle. And so you can kind of guide them in the do's and don'ts section there. I will say for products that are in a more regulated industry, this is really important. So health claims, things like that. If it's an alcohol brand, right, there may be on certain platforms, there may be certain regulations or just things to watch out for. That should go in the don't section. And then lastly, just video content examples. So if the brand wants to share content that they have already seen from other influencers or that they produce, they can link that there. If they just have inspiration in the wild that they want to share, we recommend sharing at least, a couple of videos there as well. So that is our brief template, and all of this should fit into about one page.
That's the tricky part, right? That's the sort of asterisk there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's super thorough. I like that it's like a whole overview of like every detail of the project. I think for our audience watching for TikTok affiliates, I'd love to drill down more into the video format and the how to brief sort of like the script, right? A lot of the times people need to act as directors and give these creators just a bit more direction. Because if I tell the creator like, hey, I want a testimonial video or a product demo, like there are maybe a million variations of what that could look like. So I'd love to drill down into, how do we find the right content style and trend to brief these creators on, and how do we communicate that in a way that's digestible?
Totally. So I think TikTok Shop's a little different because with our content, we just tend to be a little bit more prescribed. It's just kind of how it is with retail and with our brands that we'll use this content for ads. TikTok Shop is a little bit different. It's very raw, very like undone. And so I think if we were to translate this brief formula to what you all do, I think in the do section or in the video instructions, it's something like, pretend that you are on FaceTime with your friend. if I ever get a video that's like just a little too salesy, I like to kind of interject and say, hey, could you just change the tone of your voice as if you're talking to your best friend? And that helps a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, so something like that. And then I think you're really relying, I mean, TikTok is great with providing so much material and guidance. And I think it would be critical to include examples of videos that have just popped off on TikTok Shop. And I spend a fair amount of time on TikTok, and the ones that are viral are like so believable and not even believable. It's like, it's just real. Like someone saying, guys, they're not having to act. So I think, yeah, you can adopt this brief, but encourage them to just be themselves, and probably not include as many talking points as we
Mhm.
would with our campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, we all know the buzzword authenticity, right? Like that's sort of what we're aiming for. But it is true because like a lot of the times when I created UGC for ads, there was this very modularized format where you're almost giving the creators timestamps and the video formats where it's like, hey, we
Yeah.
want you to have a super snappy hook. And then in the body, introduce our problem and insert these 3 talking points
Yeah.
and then have a call to action saying shop now 20% off and then mention our brand.
Yeah.
And I think that's great if you want some cheap creative across a variety of different people to represent that
Mhm.
creative. But everyone's doing that now. So like how are we hitting that authenticity point? And I think what's super cool about Crafted is the creator has to have that opt-in, the creator has to be engaged. So you might not be able to modularize that content anymore. And then when you get down to revisions, you might have to keep pushing your project back more and more and more because you've already narrowly defined what authenticity looks like. And that can
Yeah.
really hurt you over dozens of creator videos, right? If you're doing revisions and larger scale UGC projects, like, I don't know, like it makes me nervous just talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I so agree with you. And I think that's a point on like the point of the purpose of a brief, right? And there is some debate on this. Like, should you even brief your creators, right?
Mm,
Because if you're too prescriptive, then it's not authentic. But I believe there is a balance, and which is why we figured out this template, because it does strike a balance between creativity, authenticity, the creator's own idea and the creator's own audience and what they know will resonate, and then making sure that at least they're talking about the product in a positive way, accurately, and here are some talking points to arm them to make great content. So I think that is, and as far as like KPIs for a successful brief, I like to think about rounds of revisions.
mm,
Our best briefs have on average like half a round of revisions,
ooh,
and then on the like briefs that aren't as great will maybe average like 1.5 rounds of revisions, because that will delay the process if the brief just wasn't clear to begin with, and then of course the performance of the content as well.
yeah. Yeah, no, those are good. Keeping it simpler is better, right? We don't need to look at like what's your click to order rate, what's your conversion rate on a single creative, because you don't really know what part of that creative is triggering that until you keep testing more iterations of it. So I like those like project level, KPIs. Those are great. One point I wanted to touch on was the links you're providing to these creators. I'm assuming those are just TikTok video links or Instagram video links for inspiration. How can I find a high quality video to brief these creators with? Like, where do I go to find them? What things should I be looking for? Would
Mhm.
love to dive into the research of those links.
Ooh, such a great question. So there are some awesome tools out there. Foreplay is one I recommend. And it's basically a big database where marketers can save meta ads. So I love meta ad library. I'm
Mhm.
always looking in there. And when I'm prepping for a call with the client, I like to look up their competitors and show them, hey, like this is what your competitors are doing. But once the ad stops running, the creative goes away. And so Foreplay is a great tool for that. So that's one. And then two, I mean, every brand knows who their competitors are. So I know that, this is my recommendation, and a lot of our brands will do this too, but they'll just go on the competitors page, look at their tag, right? Look at their organic. Again, maybe look at Foreplay or just run a ad library for great creative and include that. And then for me, I'm just like, because I am, I am your kind of bread and most marketers like are trying to reach someone like me, like a millennial woman who's like health conscious, whatever. And so I like to save stuff just as like a consumer to things that pop up in my feed. And I recommend that everyone is on social media with, rather than just doom scrolling, like paying attention to how you're getting hit with ads and influencer content that you see, and kind of having your own library of saved content. So those are some tips. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, for our good friends at TikTok, you can also go to TikTok Creative Studio, which is like a Meta equivalent.
So true.
And then I'm sure you guys are also familiar with all of the tools like Calo Data, FastMoss, EchoTick, those business intelligence gathering tools for TikTok and TikTok Shop. I would encourage you guys to also go onto the TikTok app. A lot of people are trying to be very complicated and pointed in their industry research. Go onto your TikTok app, go onto your Instagram app, and literally just type in keywords that you find through social listening. For those of you who aren't aware what social listening is, it's literally just reading the news for social media, right? You curate your news feed. You want to see what your competitors are doing. You want to see what's happening within certain spaces. Like if I'm working with the Pilates weight brand, I might type in Pilates on TikTok, see what kinds of videos come up, see what I like. Maybe I don't know what I'm looking for in my creative brief, and I just want the creators to show their own creativity and give them examples of very recent trends. So one thing I advise a lot of people in our strategy workshops that we do is to find new creative ways, to promote your content beyond, hey, I found this on TikTok Shop. I had to try it. Go check it out. They're on deal. Or, TikTok Shop made me buy it. It's like, it's the most boring content ever. But at the same time, if you're not giving those creators options and a clear vision on where you want to head, their priorities to their relationship with you, they don't want to go too off base and create something, that you didn't have in mind and do 2 more revisions that comes at an opportunity cost of another project they could have taken on because you didn't give them that picture. So, take accountability and go do your research.
Totally. That's such a good point too, because I haven't even mentioned this, but our creators give us good feedback on this briefing model too. Like, I really appreciate how clear it is. It's short, it's easy to understand, and it doesn't stifle their creativity. Like we get such positive feedback. We don't have any complaints about it. So that is really important too. And sometimes if we work with agencies, they'll give us like literally a 30-page PowerPoint presentation, which is great. And I think that helps. That's like usually part of a bigger kind of branding strategy and messaging, but we have to translate that. Like as a creator, they're just not going to read that. They're not going to understand it. So we translate that to this one pager, and it goes over really well.
Yeah, we do the same thing in Yuka, where it's like I'm encouraging a lot of our brands and agencies to send their creative brief as a photo via DM. So we have a message plus photo type that we can automate for outreach. And Sarah, you're so on the nose there, where it's like take your 13-page creative brief, put it into something digestible where they don't have to leave the platform, and then you reduce the revision process.
Totally.
I do want to touch back on the creator feedback piece. I'd love to understand, what Crafted's relationship looks like with their community of creators. How are you guys building communities? How are you guys keeping them engaged? And how are you navigating, those relationships between brands and creators? I know there's a lot of questions, so we can take it one at a time, but really curious about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we have a dedicated team that is just supporting our creators, answering their questions about how Crafted works, helping them get onboarded. We have a tech platform, but we're still very hands-on with all of our clients and all the campaigns, and we are hand-holding the creators through the process as well. We want them to feel supported, and we want them to have a good experience. So internally, that's what we're doing. As far as just how creators are finding out about us, definitely word of mouth. We have kind of just organic inbound applications that come through, every day. And then we engage with them through Instagram a lot too. So, email is like our main format, but we're always kind of connected with them more quickly, answering their quick questions on DMs. So, it's not necessarily a sophisticated process to drive community right now, but this is how creators want to communicate with us. They want to be able to reach us on DM, and happily, we can do that.
Yeah, no, that's super awesome, because one thing I really focus on with a lot of our sellers is the community management aspect of affiliate and influencer marketing, because at a certain point it's a long-term relationship, right? Sometimes I get a little bit worried because everyone's putting their creators into a Discord, and then creators are on multiple Discords or WhatsApp group. But where do creators spend the most time? Like you said, on their social media apps, creating content. The personalities of these creators are artists. They're very creative types, and they don't want to leave to another medium. They want to focus on their craft and keep getting in this flow state and taking on more projects, more concepts. And I really like the hand-holding aspect. What does that look like? Like, just to dive into that a bit more, to create a more personalized relationship and handhold them through the onboarding. Because I think right now people are, inviting creators to these Discords, but I haven't seen any robust strategies on how they're nurturing those one-on-one or group relationships. So would love to understand, how you guys are doing it.
Yeah. So first of all, the onboarding, or our model, is a bit different than what creators are used to. Okay. And so that's why we value these one-to-one relationships. Obviously, we have materials, we have videos and articles that we send them, and we have the guides, but they usually have follow-up questions. And so maybe one day we will have a group forum to be able to scale this, but this is great to be able just to answer the one-off questions. Then we have content that we can quickly respond to them with. But yeah, it's a different model that they're not used to, because we are setting the rates for them. They have to go and apply, right? They have to go to physical stores, which is something that they may not be used to. So that's why we're really hands-on. And so we're educating them on, hey, why does this model exist? What problems are we solving? How does this benefit you? And okay, if you need help with this technical thing of connecting your TikTok account, we'll help you there too.
Yeah, I like that, because the more you ask from the creator, the more support you have to give them. So I think that's a good call out for a lot of these agencies and brands who are like, I'm going to give you a 30-page brief. Are you going to get on a 30-minute call with that creator and walk them through that? That's super, super important. I want to dive a bit more into the creator point of view and the brand points of view. Having worked with a lot of creators on Crafted, what are some general points of feedback you get, from these creator brand relationships? Can you just walk me through the creator perspective, when they're taking on these projects? Because a lot of us are just pumping out project after project for new brands and agencies, following the marketing calendar for big tentpole events, but we're not stopping and thinking about, how newer creators who are joining in the middle of a tentpole event are adjusting, or more experienced creators and their perceptions of brands affected by these campaigns think.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're kind of flipping, because we are presenting to our creators this long list of opportunities. We're flipping the script in that we're saying, hey, these are all available to you. Which ones are interesting to you? And our creators are not clicking every single one and submitting proposals for every single one. They are being choosy with it. So their experience is, oh my God, I actually use this product every day. And then they mention that in their proposal. And so they have more skin in the game. And then, it can be competitive for some of our more popular brands. So, to win a sponsored content opportunity for a big brand is a big deal for them too. So that's kind of the creator experience. They have agency over like the campaigns that they want to participate in.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. And like, what are some like, besides like, a connection with the product and the brand, like what are some things creators are thinking about when they're picking a job? Like, are they looking at like what parts of creative briefs are they looking at? Like, is there anything that the brand is doing to unconsciously turn creators off from working for them? Or are there like certain points besides reputation that creators really like when they're selecting a job to work on?
Yeah, you'd be surprised. It's not so much about the brief that could turn people off. It's more so, okay, like the content of the brief. This is the product, this is the brand, this is what it stands for. This is the application. These are the use cases of the product. And if that just doesn't align with a creator, that is what will turn them off. But I don't want to say turn them off because they just weren't fit to begin with, right?
Yeah, it should be natural for sure.
Yeah. So that's what's great about this process too. Brands aren't wasting their time reaching out to creators that aren't interested. So there is this kind of process that we built and kind of ensures a mutual opt-in and mutual interest in working together.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, I feel like we've touched on a lot of the initial points in making contact with the creators and putting together a creative brief. One thing I want to talk about is the actual project management and workflow process. When a creator creates a video and it's first received by the brand. Would love to understand a bit more there, and also particularly how the revision process works like. And what are some like, do's and don'ts and taboos? Because I've seen times where brands have a laundry list of revisions, creators get mad, and they just completely abandon the project. So really want to understand why things like that happen in the first place.
Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about, and that is really frustrating. So as I said before, how to avoid that as much as you possibly can is have a great brief that is super clear. Keep it to one page, make the talking points clear, and honestly, bold and highlight the most important things. That's just how creators are able to read things quickly and understand it. So that's step one. If they misunderstand some parts of the brief or they just miss like certain things, that is that's understandable. We don't have creators that are like, oh wow, like this is unreasonable. So I think best practices for a brand, first of all, just be respectful. I really appreciate when our brands are like, hey there, like thank you so much. Just like bedside manner kind of goes a long way. And this is by the way, this is like almost like a messaging feature on our platform where the client is like typing in their revision notes. And so just general bedside manner. And then, hey, like, would you kindly like refer to the brief when you miss this point? And that's fine too. Some of our clients are very detail oriented and they'll give you like the time markers. That is actually, I don't mind that. I think that's really, really helpful for very particular clients, especially if they're using our content for ad creative. So that's okay. I support that for sure. But if a client is frustrated or there's like, wow, like they just missed the mark completely, just you have to challenge yourself to be more specific about the feedback. But again, a lot of these problems would be avoided with a strong brief.
Got it. Okay. So just to summarize there, it's really about like the attitude during these revisions, right? Like, are you meeting these creators as a person, and are you framing it within the contents of the creative brief, right? Like, it's
Mhm.
totally not cool to change the content style on a
Yeah.
creator if you don't like how they did the content style that they opted in for, because that's essentially a whole new creative project for the creator, right? They need to go back and think about how to concept it. They need to create a whole new B-roll. They need to go and edit and cut that film up. Like, that's completely, unacceptable. And like,
Yeah.
from the creator's point of view, like, what are some other things like that really make them very frustrated when they're handling revisions from brands?
Yeah, you're so right. It has to come back to the brief because that's what we have in writing. Like that is what everyone has agreed to. But if you're giving feedback on something outside of that, I totally agree with you, Sohan. Like that is when things start to get frustrating for both sides. And yeah, sometimes our brands will, opt into create a persona or creative style, and then when they get the video, they change their mind. And in that case, it's best just not to move forward. But you have to be opted into the creator's whole kind of persona online. Look at their content. I think that's another mistake is when a brand just says, okay, cool, like decent followers, decent viewership, looks like a fit, but you spend a little bit of time looking at least a few videos
Mhm.
to make sure that the style is aligned as well.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that point, because that's what I tell a lot of people on these workshops too, is like, when you're selecting a creator and you're giving them a content style, the way it's going to come across as authentic is if the theme of their content is consistent, right? And so when you're looking into these influencers, do they have, like, if they're a reviews page, that's fine. But is there something creative about their reviews? Is their audience engaging and asking questions about the reviews and treating them as a figure of authority? That's super important. And that's a positive signal, like Sarah is saying, when you're giving them feedback on a review based content, you could even do things like allude to previous posts they have and be like, hey, what we're looking for is actually like similar to something you did a few weeks ago on your TikTok profile, or similar to XYZ frame, over here, and provide the link, because what I find is there's a big communication gap if you don't use visuals, right? You're saying one thing and the creator's reality is completely different and they're perceiving it as another. So like Sarah was saying, pointing to those frames, using real life links, referring to their themes and what they're good at is great. To wrap up the management, I'd love
Mhm.
to understand how the end of this process works. Like,
Yeah.
this is really interesting because I feel like once creators create a good piece of content, a lot of brands just kind of go ghost on the creator and they just never talk to them again, or they just never, like, the relationship just ends. It's just like, it feels like kind of like a one night stand, what do you think like a good like ending should look like? Like, what are things like brands can do to like at the ends of projects? I'd be
Yeah,
curious.
totally. So, yeah. So, well, as far as just finishing out the process on the platform, so the creator gets approved, then the video file is accessible for the client to download, and we actually grant usage rights to our clients in perpetuity, so they can, they have free reign to use that content wherever. Then the creator will post, and then they submit their post link, and we're able to track metrics in real time. Or as soon as they submit their post link, we have the data and we're tracking it as it grows. So there is no delay. I was talking to a brand yesterday that said that they require 30 days for the agency to submit metrics, but ours is obviously much quicker than that. And so what you're alluding to is our follow-up with the brand saying, hey, like this is the content that did super well. And then we'll recommend that they work with that creator again. So it's just another campaign or another brief that's launched on the creator side, and we're helping the brand to make sure that they're getting their favorite creators, like, or we're shepherding their favorite creators into that repeat briefs and campaigns as well. So that's the process. Obviously our brands are welcome to like DM and chat and build a relationship. But as far as like paid content, we are in the best position to facilitate that. So it's seamless for both sides.
Yeah, of course. Like totally agree. Cause like, the first video you do with a creator is not going to be their best video. So like in reality, like if you get, like, let's say you launch a UGC project on Crafted for 12 videos, 3 creators, do really well on ads, could they do even better? With affiliate marketing, you now have potential candidates to nurture relationships with. So let's say 3 of these creators all do product demo videos, but they represent different demographics. Our like Crafted is going to give you those metrics, and you can dive into why these videos perform well, and why these creators worked. So I think what Sarah's also hitting on is sort of like the positive feedback loop and the flywheel, because the project doesn't just end once a creator posts a video. There's potential for a new project with variations of the original creative brief. That creator has already been educated in how you like to create videos. So now it comes to like, hey, I love the concept you really did. Would love to work and maybe do some more videos at bulk for a slightly lower price. And let's change the hook on this video. Let's try adding in motion graphics here. Let's start testing these variations and see how it performs long term. Because for TikTok Shop, everyone's so focused on reaching out to thousands of affiliates a month, and then they're just not talking to their successful affiliates and creators and not putting them through that content briefing flywheel again, right? So that's super important.
Absolutely. And I think it depends on the goals of the brand. Obviously, TikTok Shop brands, that what you're hitting on is very, very relevant. But just, a tip I'll mention too is that so we obviously show all the post links and then, when they go live. So some of our brands will just, they'll just not even pay close attention or monitor what's going on in the comments. And we've had creators say like, hey, the brand left a comment or responded to some things, and I really appreciate that. And I know that they were happy with the content, so that makes me happy. So kind of engaging in the comments is just like low-hanging fruit. To your point, to just not like have them post and then you ghost. But yeah, we have many brands that are like, hey, like this creator worked out so well for us. So if there are any creators watching this live, like my advice is be timely, be respectful, follow the brief, like make a really good impression, because it will open up more doors for you on our platform and beyond, just as a creator in general. Making a good impression and being easy to work with gets you repeat paid business, and then opens up more doors too, because people will, that will be your reputation as people talk about you too.
Yeah, that's so cool. I like that. Don't post and ghost. Like that's I'm gonna remember that. That's a good one. Cool. Well, I want to wrap it up and just talk a little bit about AI and where this like creator content is heading a bit. And Sarah, would love your thoughts on some of the things that Yuka's been doing too. So going back to how to create a successful creative brief. We called out things like social listening. We talked about the feedback loop and the revision process. So one thing that we're doing is taking, top hooks, based on certain products and videos, top video formats, and then top selling points for products, and allowing creators and brands to look at these and create videos. Do you think this would be helpful when it comes to the creative briefing process, or are there any things you'd want to call out there?
Yes. I'm super excited about these features that you guys are building and have already. One thing I would add is, because TikTok is like driven by SEO in many ways now, and they're just growing that capability. I think helping, if there was a way you could analyze the trending search terms right now and incorporate those into the briefs. That would be my advice. I think what you said about hooks is excellent, as long as that's being refreshed, because things change so quickly. As far as like content that hits, products that are trending, searches that people are putting in there.
Yeah, I like that you called that out, because we have that coming up into the new year. We have a social listening tool that's actually using AI to find all the top trending keywords off of the copy on your videos and on those search terms, right, for TikTok. So sort of like similar to like a keyword research tool, like a SEMrush or Helium 10 sort of thing. And then people can follow those keywords and look at that to create different content styles. So it's really like taking a social listening and making it actionable to your creative brief. So love that you called out the keywords piece. That's something that we always hear from a lot of Amazon sellers coming onto TikTok Shop. They love their keywords, they love their search terms, they're all tracking and making bids on them, but you can use them for creators and creator content as well. Just need to spend some time following up on them. And look, I know we're at the 45-minute mark, so I'll leave the floor open for any questions if there are any in these few minutes. And if not, don't worry, guys. There is going to be a recording. We will send it out. And yeah.
Yeah, and I'm happy to share with you our creative brief template too, Sohan, if you want to include that. And
oh yeah, we would love that.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, I don't see any questions right now. I know this was a longer session, so thank you for everyone who's still tuning in. Feel free to also book a consultation with me. I've been advising a lot of the top TikTok Shop agencies and brands and auditing their affiliate workflows, but been talking to lots of talented people with content strategy like Sarah to also help brands brief creators better and train with the social media teams and organic teams more. So thank you so much for tuning in, guys, and looking forward to the next event.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Sohan, and thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Talk soon.
Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.